The massive crystal ship Eternal Dominion floated through space like a deadly jewel. Its surface caught starlight and twisted it into rainbow patterns that would have been beautiful if you didn't know what it meant. Death was coming for another world. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back. Through the viewing screen, he watched the small blue planet called Terra Nova spinning slowly in the darkness. Smoke was already rising from its cities. The human defense fleet was scattered across the system like broken toys. Another easy victory, Kethver muttered. His voice sounded like grinding glass. The Zephyrian Empire had been crushing worlds for 3 years now, and these humans were just the latest species to fall before their might. Commander Velthara walked up to him, her crystal skin glowing with excitement. "Sir, the human ships are retreating. They're not even trying to fight us anymore?" She held up a datapad showing the tactical display. Red dots representing human vessels were moving away from the planet as fast as their primitive engines could. "Carry them." Kethver's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a laugh among his people. "Of course they're running. Look at them." He gestured at the screen where a human destroyer was limping away, trailing plasma fire from its damaged hull. "Their weapons can barely scratch our shields. Their ships are made of metal and desperation." The truth was, the humans had put up more of a fight than anyone expected. When the Zephyrian scouts first found them 18 months ago, High Command had dismissed them as another primitive species. They had just figured out faster-than-light travel. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles and simple energy beams. Their ships looked like flying scrap metal, compared to the elegant crystal vessels of the Empire, but these humans were stubborn. They didn't surrender when they should have. They didn't beg for mercy like other species. They just kept fighting. Until there was nothing left to fight with, then they would evacuate their people and run to the next system. It was almost admirable in a pathetic sort of way. "Sir," called out the navigation officer from across the bridge, "we're receiving a transmission from the human evacuation fleet." Kethver turned his attention to the communication station. A hologram flickered to life, showing a human female in a blue uniform. Her face was streaked with soot, and her eyes burned with defiance even in defeat. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the evacuation fleet," the human said. Her voice was steady despite the circumstances. "We're requesting safe passage for our civilian transports. We have women and children aboard." The Admiral studied the human's face. These creatures were so strange, looking with their soft skin and tiny eyes. No natural armor, no claws, no obvious weapons. How had they even survived long enough to reach the stars? "You're in no position to request anything," Kethver replied. "Your defense fleet is destroyed. Your planet is burning. You should be grateful we allow you to flee at all." The human captain's jaw tightened. "We're not asking for charity, Admiral. We're offering you a choice. Let our civilians go, and we'll withdraw our remaining military vessels without firing another shot. Keep attacking them, and we'll make you pay for every transport you destroy." Kethver found this amusing. "With what?" "Your remaining ships couldn't damage one of our corvettes, let alone our fleet." "Maybe not," Captain Rodriguez admitted. "But we can make you work for it. We can make you use ammunition and fuel and time. We can make sure this easy victory costs you something." The transmission ended. Kethver stared at the empty space where the hologram had been. These humans had an odd sense of honor for such a weak species. They knew they were beaten, but they still tried to protect their own. "Order, sir?" Commander Velthara asked. Kethver waved a dismissive hand. "Let them go. There's no sport in hunting civilians, and we have larger concerns. The rebellion in the Andromeda sector requires our attention." The truth was, he was growing bored with this human campaign. It had been 3 years of the same thing over and over. Arrive at a human system, destroy their defenses, occupy or burn their worlds, then move on to the next one. The humans never surprised him anymore. They always followed the same pattern: fight desperately, lose completely, evacuate what they could, and retreat deeper into space. As the Zephyrian fleet moved away from Terra Nova, Kethver reviewed the Intelligence reports on his personal console. The humans had abandoned 17 worlds so far. Always the same story. Civilian populations evacuated, military forces scattered, infrastructure left behind. They seem to have an endless supply of hiding places in the Outer Rim territories. Where do they keep going? He wondered aloud. Valthara looked up from her station. Sir, the humans? They've lost nearly 20% of their territory, but our intelligence suggests their population is actually growing. How is that possible? The commander pulled up a star chart on the main display. Our scouts believe they're establishing colonies in unexplored space. Systems so far out that even our long-range sensors can't detect them. Kethver nodded. It made sense. The humans were like insects, scurrying away to build new nests whenever the old ones were destroyed. Let them run to the edge of the galaxy if they wanted? Space was vast, and the Empire had more important conquests to focus on. What the Admiral didn't know was that Captain Rodriguez was having a very different conversation aboard her evacuation ship. The bridge of the Silent Observer was cramped and dimly lit, nothing like the grand crystal halls of Zephyrian vessels. But it was efficient, and right now, efficiency mattered more than beauty. Did you get it? Rodriguez asked her tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander Chun nodded, holding up a small data storage device. Every sensor reading, every weapon signature, every communication frequency they used. The scanner drones got everything before the Zephyrians detected them. Rodriguez took the device and stared at it. Such a small thing to hold so much hope. Good. Package this with the others and send it on the next courier run to Project Lazarus. How many more worlds, Captain? Chin asked quietly. How many more people have to die before we're ready? Rodriguez looked out the viewport at the evacuation fleet. Thousands of ships carrying millions of refugees, all heading for the secret colonies that the Zephyrians couldn't find? Behind them, Terra Nova was already disappearing into the distance, just another dot of light in the endless dark. As many as it takes, she said finally. We knew this day would come when we first detected their scout ships. We knew we weren't ready to fight them. But we're buying time, and time is all we need. She thought about the reports coming back from the hidden research stations. Project Lazarus was ahead of schedule. The theoretical breakthrough had become practical applications faster than anyone had dared hope. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their ships or their weapons. It was their ability to adapt. The evacuation fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving Terra Nova behind forever. In 18 months, the Zephyrian Empire would discover just how dangerous a cornered human could be. But for now, they celebrated another easy victory while humanity planned their revenge in the darkness between the stars. 3 months had passed since the fall of Terra Nova, and something was wrong in Zephyrian space. Admiral Kethver stared at the reports piling up on his desk, each one more puzzling than the last. Mining stations going silent. Patrol ships reporting. Strange sensor readings. Equipment failures in deep space. Another false alarm, muttered Commander Valthara as she dropped yet another report onto the growing stack. The mining station at Kepler 88 lost contact for 6 hours, then came back online like nothing happened. The crew claims they don't remember anything. Kethver picked up the report and scanned through it. The pattern was always the same. Automated systems would suddenly stop responding. When contact was restored, everything appeared normal, but the timestamps showed gaps in the logs. Hours of missing data with no explanation. What does High Command think? He asked. Valthara's crystal skin flickered with annoyance. They're calling it equipment malfunctions. Old mining gear breaking down in deep space. They say we're seeing patterns where none exist. But Kethver had been a military commander for over 2 centuries. He knew the difference between coincidence and enemy action. The timing was too perfect, the locations too strategic. Someone was testing their defenses, probing for weaknesses. The real mystery was who. The humans had vanished completely after. Terra Nova, intelligence reports suggested they had retreated so far into unexplored space that even long-range scouts couldn't find them. Every other species in the sector was either already conquered, or too primitive to pose a threat. Captain Nexanaw of the destroyer Crystal Fang was having similar thoughts as he patrolled the outer rim of Zephyrian territory. His ship was one of the fastest in the fleet, designed for reconnaissance and quick strikes. For 3 weeks, he had been chasing sensor ghosts and investigating equipment failures with nothing to show for it. "Sir," called his sensor operator, "I'm picking up something unusual in the asteroid field ahead." Vexonal moved to the sensor station and studied the readings. There, hiding among the space rocks, was a ship, a big ship. The signature was faint, almost masked by the asteroid field's natural interference, but it was definitely artificial. "Can you identify it?" he asked. The operator worked his controls, trying to get a clearer reading. "The design doesn't match any known Zephyrian vessel. The proportions are all wrong. Too long, not enough width. It looks almost cylindrical." Vexonal felt his stomach clench. He had seen those proportions before in intelligence briefings. Human ships were built like metal tubes, crude and functional compared to the elegant crystal architecture of his own people. "Red alert," he ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Charge the plasma cannons." As his crew rushed to combat positions, Vexonal studied the tactical display. The enemy ship wasn't moving. It just sat there among the asteroids like it was waiting for something. That was strange behavior for a human vessel. In every previous encounter, they had either attacked immediately or fled as fast as possible. "Open a communication channel," he commanded. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the human ship. Vexonal was surprised by what he saw. This wasn't like the cramped, dimly lit human bridges he remembered from intelligence footage. This was spacious and clean, with soft lighting and smooth surfaces. The crew members, he could see, looked calm and professional, not desperate like the humans in previous battles. At the center of it all stood a human male in a crisp uniform. He was older than most human military personnel Vexonal had encountered, with gray hair and steady eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried quiet authority. "This is Captain Webb of the UES Retribution," the human said. "You are in violation of neutral space. I'm ordering you to withdraw immediately." Vexonal couldn't believe what he was hearing. A human ship, alone and outnumbered, was giving him orders. After 3 years of crushing defeats, had these creatures learned nothing? "I am Captain Vexonal of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy," he replied. "This entire sector is under Imperial control. You will surrender your vessel immediately or be destroyed." Captain Webb's expression didn't change. "I'm afraid that's not going to happen, Captain. You have 30 seconds to begin your withdrawal before we consider you a hostile target." The sheer audacity of it left Vexonal speechless. He looked around. His bridge at his crew, all of them staring at the screen in disbelief. A single human ship was threatening a Zephyrian destroyer? It was like an insect challenging a predator. "You must be joking," Vexonal said finally. "Your ship is 3 times the size of anything humans have built before, I'll give you that. But size means nothing against Imperial technology. We've destroyed hundreds of your vessels." "Those were different ships," Webb replied calmly, "built for different times. The Retribution represents a new chapter in human engineering. I suggest you don't test it." Vexonal had heard enough. He cut the communication and turned to his weapons officer. "Target their engines. Let's see how tough this new human engineering really is." The Crystal Fang's plasma cannons began to glow with deadly energy. These weapons could punch through the hull of any known vessel with ease. They had turned human fleets into debris clouds in previous battles, but as the cannons reached full charge, something impossible happened. The human ship began to shimmer like a mirage. Space around it seemed to bend and twist in ways that hurt to look at. Then, without any visible weapon fire or energy discharge, the Crystal Fang simply stopped existing. One moment, Vexonal was standing on his bridge preparing to fire. The next moment, there was nothing. No explosion, no debris, no distress signal. The destroyer and its crew of 200 had been erased from reality as completely as if they had never been built. Captain Webb watched the empty space where the Zephyrian ship had been, then turned to his tactical officer. Log it as a defensive action. Send a report to Admiral Martinez. Should we investigate the area for survivors? The tactical officer asked. Webb shook his head. There are no survivors. The quantum displacement field doesn't leave survivors. He paused, looking troubled. I wish they had listened to the warning. The Retribution powered up its new drive system, preparing to jump to the next patrol zone. But before it left, Webb ordered his communications officer to broadcast a message on all Zephyrian military frequencies. This is Captain Webb of the UES Retribution to all Imperial forces. We gave you a chance to leave our people alone. That chance has expired. Any Imperial vessel that threatens human civilians or enters human space will be removed. This is your only warning. The message was transmitted across the galaxy in seconds, reaching every Zephyrian military base and command center simultaneously. Most commanders dismissed it as human desperation or propaganda. But deep in Imperial intelligence headquarters, analysts were frantically trying to explain how the Crystal Fang had vanished without a trace. Admiral Kethver received the report 6 hours later while reviewing patrol schedules in his ready room. He read it 3 times before the implications sank in. A destroyer gone, no debris, no survivors, no explanation. And the humans were claiming responsibility. He called for Commander Velthara immediately. When she arrived, he showed her the report. What do you make of this? Velthara studied the data carefully. It could be a malfunction, reactor overload maybe, or a spatial anomaly, and the human message claiming they did it? Propaganda. They want us to think they have some new superweapon. It's a psychological operation designed to make us afraid. Kethver wanted to believe that. The alternative was too disturbing to consider. If the humans had developed technology that could make ships disappear without a trace, then everything had changed. The war was no longer a simple matter of superior Imperial technology crushing primitive human resistance, but as the days passed, more ships began to vanish. Always the same pattern: encounter with a large human vessel, refusal to withdraw, then complete disappearance. No battles, no weapon signatures, just empty space where proud Imperial warships used to be. The whispers started in the lower ranks and spread upward like a virus. Stories of ghost ships that could erase you from existence. Tales of human vessels that bent space itself as a weapon. Fear began to replace confidence in the hearts of Imperial crews, and somewhere in the depths of space, more human ships were moving into position, each one carrying the same impossible technology. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's 18 months of apparent defeat had been spent very productively indeed. Admiral Keffer hadn't slept in 3 days. The holographic display in his command center showed a map of Zephyrian space, and it was covered in red warning markers. Each marker represented a missing ship. Each marker was a mystery that kept him awake at night. 17 ships in 1 week, he muttered, staring at the display. How is this possible? Commander Velthara approached with another data pad, her crystal skin dim with exhaustion. Make that 18, sir. The cruiser Shard Strike went missing 4 hours ago in the Vega sector. Same pattern as all the others. Kethver took the pad and read through the report. It was identical to all the rest. The cruiser had detected a large human vessel. Captain sent a standard challenge. Human ship responded with a warning to withdraw. Captain refused and prepared to attack. Then nothing. No distress signal, no debris field, no trace that the ship had ever existed. What are our scientists saying about this? Kethver asked. Velthara's expression grew troubled. Dr. Yolandra has been working around the clock trying to understand what's happening. She wants to brief you personally. 30 minutes later, Kethver found himself in the science lab, deep in the ship's crystal core. Dr. Yolandra was the Empire's leading expert on alien technology, and she looked as tired as he felt. Around her, holographic displays showed complex equations and theoretical models that hurt his eyes to look at. Admiral, she said without looking up from her work, I think I know what the humans have done. Tell me it's not as bad as I think it is. Dr. Yolandra finally turned to face him, and her expression was grim. It's worse. The humans appear to have weaponized quantum displacement theory. They're not destroying our ships, Admiral. They're removing them from reality entirely. Kethver felt his stomach drop. That's impossible. Quantum displacement is theoretical. The energy requirements alone would be massive. That's what I thought too, the scientist replied. But look at this. She activated a holographic display showing sensor readings from the last few encounters. These are the energy signatures we detected just before our ships vanished. The patterns are consistent with massive quantum field manipulation. The Admiral studied the data, but most of it was beyond his understanding. In simple terms, Doctor, what does this mean? It means the humans have solved one of the galaxy's oldest scientific puzzles. They've figured out how to manipulate the fundamental structure of space-time itself. When they target one of our ships, they're essentially convincing the universe that the ship never existed in the first place. Kethver stared at the display in horror. How long would it take to develop such technology? Under normal circumstances? Centuries, maybe millennia. But if they had the right breakthrough, the right theoretical foundation, ... double quotes. Admiral, how long did our intelligence services estimate the humans had been preparing for this war? 18 months. Since we first made contact with their scout ships, Dr. Yolandra nodded slowly. 18 months to go from primitive kinetic weapons to reality manipulation technology. Either these humans are the most brilliant species in galactic history, or they've had help. Before Kethver could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. His personal communicator crackled to life with an urgent message from the bridge. Admiral, to the command center immediately. We have multiple contacts approaching our position. Kethver rushed back to the bridge, Dr. Yolandra close behind him. What he saw on the main display made his blood freeze. 12 ships were emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. Each one was enormous, easily 3 times the size of his flagship. They moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls seeming to absorb the light from nearby stars. "Sir," called the sensor operator, "I'm reading massive energy signatures from all 12 vessels. Whatever power source they're using, it's unlike anything in our databases." Commander Velthara was already at her battle station. "Should we call? For reinforcements?" Kethver almost laughed. "Reinforcements? Against ships that could erase vessels from existence? No, if we can't handle this, reinforcements won't make a difference. Open a channel to the lead ship." The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of the human flagship. The human standing at its center was a woman with short, dark hair and eyes like ice. Her uniform was different from the others Kethver had seen, with more decorations and a bearing that spoke of absolute authority. "I am Admiral Rivera of the United Earth Forces," she said. Her voice was calm but carried an undertone of barely controlled fury. "You are Admiral Kethver of the Zephyrian Empire." It wasn't a question. Somehow, she knew exactly who he was. "Yes," Kethver replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am. What do you want?" "I want you to listen very carefully," Admiral Rivera said. "For 3 years, your people have been hunting ours across the galaxy. You've burned our worlds. You've scattered our families. You've treated us like animals to be exterminated." Kethver felt a flash of anger. "Your species was primitive when we found you. We brought order to chaos." "You brought death?" Rivera replied coldly. "But that ends today. I'm here to offer you a choice, Admiral. The same choice you never gave us." The human admiral gestured, and the tactical display behind her showed a map of local space. Red markers indicated the positions of Zephyrian military installations throughout the sector. "You can order a full military withdrawal from this sector," she continued. "Pull back to your core systems and never return. Or you can try to fight us, and discover what happens when humanity decides to stop running." Kethver looked around. His bridge and his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. These were veterans who had never known defeat, warriors who had conquered a dozen species. But he could see fear in their eyes now. "And if I refuse?" he asked. Admiral. Rivera's expression didn't change. Then you'll join the 18 ships that have already discovered our answer to Imperial aggression. 18 ships destroyed with your new weapon. Impressive, but hardly decisive against the full might of the Empire. Destroyed? Rivera repeated. And for the first time she smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Admiral, you still don't understand. We didn't destroy those ships. We erased them, completely. No wreckage, no survivors, no record they ever existed except in your memory files. She paused, letting that sink in, and this is just the beginning. Behind me are 11 more ships exactly like this one. In systems. Throughout your territory, 47 similar vessels are taking positions near your major installations. Each one carries the same technology that erased your ships. The number hit Kethver like a physical blow. 47 ships with reality warping. Weapons, how was that possible? You're bluffing, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Admiral Rivera nodded to someone off-screen. Suddenly, every display on Kethver-S bridge lit up with tactical data. Not his own sensors, but readings from Zephyrian installations across the Empire. Base after base showed the same thing. Massive human ships in position near critical facilities. We've been preparing for this moment for 18 months, Rivera said. While you thought we were running, we were building. While you celebrated easy victories, we were planning your defeat. Every world you burned, every ship you destroyed, every life you took taught us something new about your capabilities. Dr. Yolandra whispered urgently in Kethver-S' ear. Sir, if they have that many ships with quantum displacement weapons, they could cripple our entire military infrastructure in hours. Admiral Rivera seemed to hear her, though it was impossible at this distance. Your scientist is correct, Admiral. We could end this war in a single coordinated strike. We could erase every Imperial military vessel from existence and leave your people defenseless. Then why haven't you? Kethver asked. Because we're not like you, Rivera replied. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want to exterminate other species. We just want to be left alone. But if you force our hand, if you make us choose, between our survival and your destruction. She didn't need to finish the sentence. The implications were clear. I need time to consider, Kethver said. You have 1 hour, Admiral Rivera replied. After that, we'll assume you've chosen war. The transmission ended, leaving Kethver alone with his thoughts and the terrible weight of decision. Admiral Kethver-S' hour was almost up when the communication came from the Imperial capital. Emperor Zixthal himself appeared on the private channel, his ancient crystalline form pulsing with rage. The Emperor had ruled for over 1,000 years, and in all that time, no one had dared to give him ultimatums. Admiral, the Emperor's voice echoed like breaking glass, you will not negotiate with these primitive mammals. You will destroy them, all of them. Kethver felt his heart sink. Your Majesty, with respect, these humans have developed technology beyond our understanding. They've already demonstrated they can erase our ships from existence. Perhaps we should consider their terms. The Emperor's form blazed brighter. Impossible. No species goes from kinetic weapons to reality manipulation in 18 months. It's a trick, an illusion designed to frighten us into submission. I am mobilizing the Grand Fleet. We will show these humans what real power looks like. The transmission ended before Kethver could respond. Around him, his bridge crew exchanged worried glances. They had all seen what happened to the ships that challenged human vessels. The idea of the entire Grand Fleet facing that technology was terrifying. Sir, Commander Velthara said quietly, the human admiral is requesting a response to her ultimatum. Kethver looked at the chronometer. The hour was up. He had no choice now but to follow his Emperor's commands, even if it meant leading his people to destruction. Open a channel, he ordered. Admiral Rivera appeared on screen, her expression as cold as before. Behind her, Kethver could see the bridge of her ship humming with activity. Whatever these humans had planned, they were ready for it. Admiral, Rivera said, have you reached a decision? The Empire does not negotiate with threats, Kethver replied, hating every word. Emperor Zixthal has ordered the mobilization of our Grand Fleet. If you do not withdraw immediately, you will face the full might of the Zephyrian military. Admiral Rivera nodded slowly. I was afraid you'd say that. For what it's worth, Admiral, I'm sorry. Your people don't deserve what's about to happen to them. She gestured to someone off-screen. All units, this is Admiral Rivera. The Zephyrians have chosen war. Execute Operation Lazarus. Show them what happens when you back humanity into a corner. The 12 human ships began to glow with an eerie blue light. Space around them seemed to shimmer and bend, reality itself responding to the massive energies they were generating. Kethver had seen this effect before in the sensor recordings from the missing ships, but experiencing it in person was far more terrifying. "Sir," called the sensor operator, his voice shaking, "the human ships are generating quantum fields unlike anything we've ever detected. The energy readings are off the scale." Before Kethver could respond, space erupted with new arrivals. The Grand Fleet was emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation. Over 300 ships, from nimble corvettes to massive dreadnoughts. At their center was the pride of the Imperial Navy, the Super Dreadnought World Render. A ship so large it had its own gravitational field. Emperor Zixthal commanded from his personal battleship, a crystalline masterpiece called Eternal Dominion. It was the most advanced vessel in the Zephyrian fleet, equipped with weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been breached. "This is Emperor Zixthal to all human vessels," the ancient ruler's voice boomed across every communication channel. "You face the accumulated might of a 1,000-year empire. Surrender now, and we will grant you quick deaths." Admiral Rivera's response was immediate and devastating. "This is Admiral Rivera to all Zephyrian forces. You invaded our space, you burned our worlds, you scattered our people across the galaxy like leaves in a storm. Today you learn why that was the biggest mistake in galactic history." The human ships stopped glowing and began to move. Not the graceful, sweeping maneuvers of Zephyrian vessels, but direct, purposeful advances that spoke of absolute confidence. They formed a line of battle that seemed impossibly small compared to the massive Imperial fleet arrayed against them. "They're outnumbered 25 to 1, Commander Velthara whispered. "What are they thinking?" Kethver watched the tactical display with growing dread. The human ships weren't acting like a desperate last stand. They were moving with the precision of a surgical strike, each vessel taking position with mechanical efficiency. Emperor Zixthal was apparently thinking the same thing. "All ships, open fire. Show these mammals the price of defying the Empire." The Grand Fleet erupted in a display of firepower that could have sterilized worlds. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and gravity missiles converged on the human line. The space between the fleets became a storm of deadly energy that would have vaporized any conventional vessel, but the human ships didn't even try to dodge. They just sat there, absorbing punishment that should have destroyed them instantly. Their hulls glowed white-hot from the bombardment, but they remained intact. Somehow, impossibly, they were shrugging off the concentrated firepower of an entire fleet. "Impossible," Kethver breathed. "No shields could withstand that much damage." Then the humans began to fire back, and the universe changed forever. They didn't use conventional weapons. Instead, they projected fields of impossible energy that reached out like invisible hands to grasp Zephyrian ships. And wherever those fields touched, reality simply stopped. The first to go was a squadron of corvettes on the fleet's left flank. One moment they were there, dodging and weaving through space. The next moment they weren't. Not destroyed, not vaporized, just gone. As if they had never existed at all. "By the Crystal Throne," whispered Commander Velthara. "They're erasing our ships from existence." The human vessels moved through the Imperial formation like predators among prey. Each time they focused their attention on a target, another Zephyrian ship vanished without a trace. Destroyers, cruisers, even battleships disappeared as easily as smoke in the wind. "Admiral," Rivera's voice cut through the chaos on all frequencies. "This is what humanity learned in our darkest hour. This is what we built while you thought we were broken. We don't just fight wars anymore, we rewrite the laws of physics themselves. The world render, pride of the Imperial Navy, lasted exactly 37 seconds against the focused attention of 3 human ships. The massive dreadnought, which had taken 50 years to build and carried a crew of 10,000, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was firing its main guns at the human line. The next it was empty space. Emperor Zixthal watched his mighty fleet dissolve around him with growing horror. In his 1,000 years of rule, he had never imagined such power could exist. These humans weren't just defeating his forces, they were denying them the right to exist. All ships, he broadcast on emergency channels, retreat. Full retreat, but it was too late. The human ships had spread out through the Imperial formation, their reality-warping weapons reaching out to touch ship after ship. The retreat became a rout as captains abandoned formation and fled in all directions, desperate to escape the invisible death that stalked them. In 30 minutes, the Grand Fleet ceased to exist. 300 proud vessels of the Zephyrian Empire had been reduced to a handful of damaged survivors fleeing toward the nearest hyperspace jump points. The humans didn't pursue them. They had made their point with terrifying efficiency. Admiral Rivera opened a final communication to the survivors. Tell your Emperor that this ends now. Withdraw to your core systems and never return to human space. Any act of aggression against any species will result in your complete removal from the galaxy. This is not a threat, this is a promise. Emperor Zixthal sat alone on his bridge, staring at empty space where his fleet had been. For the first time in his ancient life, he understood what it meant to be truly afraid. The galaxy had a new apex predator and it wore a human face. The Battle of Proxima Nexus would be remembered as the day the universe learned to fear humanity. But for the survivors of the Imperial fleet, it was simply the day they learned that some species, when pushed too far, don't just push back, they rewrite the rules of reality itself. 6 months after the Battle of Proxima Nexus, Admiral Rivera stood on the observation deck of the UES Devastation, looking down at a world that had once been the center of a galactic empire. The crystal cities of the former imperial capital stretched across the planet's surface like frozen lightning, their spires catching the light of twin suns and scattering it into rainbow patterns. It was beautiful, she had to admit. The Zephyrians were many things, but they knew how to build. These cities had stood for thousands of years, monuments to imperial power and achievement. Now they were monuments to something else entirely, the price of pushing humanity too far. Any word from the colony fleets? Asked Captain Webb as he joined her at the viewport. The veteran officer had been coordinating the return of human refugees from their hiding places in deep space. After 3 years of running and hiding, millions of humans were finally coming home. They're all accounted for, Rivera replied. The last transport convoy arrived this morning. Every civilian we evacuated, every family we scattered to the winds. They're all safe now. She paused, watching a flock of crystalline birds soar between the alien spires below. We actually did it, Thomas. We brought everyone home. Webb nodded, but his expression remained troubled. At what cost? The Zephyrian Empire is finished? 1,000-year civilization reduced to a handful of core worlds, too terrified to even send out trade ships. Rivera understood his concern. The quantum displacement technology that had won them the war was beyond devastating. It didn't just destroy enemy ships. It erased them so completely that only memory proved they had ever existed. In the wrong hands, such power could reshape the galaxy in terrible ways. Do you ever wonder if we went too far? Webb asked quietly. Rivera considered the question carefully. It wasn't the first time she'd asked herself the same thing. I think about the children on Terra Nova, she said finally. I think about the families scattered across 40 different worlds, not knowing if they'd ever see each other again. I think about 3 years of running and hiding while our people died. She turned from the viewport to face him directly. The Zephyrians started this war, Thomas. They chose to treat us like animals to be hunted and exterminated. We gave them every chance to stop, to choose peace over conquest. They refused every time. Below them, the alien city went about its daily business. Zephyrian civilians moved through crystal streets, their forms glittering in the sunlight. Most of them had never fired a shot in the war, never participated in the conquest of human worlds. They were just ordinary people trying to live their lives under the shadow of their empire's collapsed dreams. Status report on the other sectors? Rivera asked, changing the subject. Webb pulled out a datapad and scrolled through the latest intelligence summaries. The Andromedans have agreed to our territorial boundaries. No more expansion into human space, and they're pulling back from the disputed systems near the Centauri border. The Federation is actually requesting a formal alliance. Rivera wasn't surprised. Word of humanity's new capabilities had spread across the galaxy faster than wildfire. Species that had never heard of Earth 6 months ago were now sending diplomatic envoys and trade delegations. Everyone wanted to be friends with the species that could erase fleets from existence. What about the smaller empires? She asked. Complete compliance. The hegemony, the trade consortium, even the warrior clans of the Outer Reach have all acknowledged human sovereignty. Nobody wants to test our defensive capabilities. Rivera nodded. It was exactly what they had hoped for when Project Lazarus began. Not conquest, not empire building, just the simple right to exist without fear. The galaxy was finally listening to humanity, but only because they were too afraid to do otherwise. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Rivera activated her personal communicator to find Dr. Chun, the head of the Lazarus research team, requesting an urgent meeting. 20 minutes later, they were deep in the ship's most secure section, surrounded by the quantum field generators that made their impossible weapons possible. Admiral, Dr. Chun said without preamble, we have a problem. The displacement generators are showing signs of quantum decay. The fields are becoming unstable. Rivera felt her stomach drop. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe less. The technology is breaking down faster than we anticipated. The quantum fields we're generating are too powerful for long-term stability. We're essentially tearing holes in reality every time we use them. Webb looked confused. What does that mean in practical terms? Dr. Chun pulled up a holographic display showing the internal structure of a quantum field generator. It means the weapons that won us the war are going to stop working, and we don't know how to fix them. Rivera stared at the display in shock. Can we build new ones? Not with current technology. The breakthroughs that made Project Lazarus possible came from studying Zephyrian quantum theory combined with human engineering. It was a perfect storm of circumstances that we probably can't recreate. The implications were staggering. Humanity's entire position in the galaxy was based on their possession of reality-warping weapons. Without them, they would be just another mid-level species in a universe full of predators. Does anyone else know about this? Rivera asked. Dr. Chun shook her head. The research team has been sworn to secrecy. But Admiral, we need to start thinking about what comes next. The galaxy believes we're invincible. What happens when they find out we're not? Rivera was quiet for a long moment, thinking through the possibilities. We have 6 months to establish a new foundation for human security. 6 months to prove that we're more than just our weapons. Over the following weeks, Rivera threw herself into a new kind of campaign. Instead of planning military operations, she was coordinating diplomatic missions and trade negotiations. Humanity needed allies, real allies who would stand with them even after their superweapons failed. The response was better than she had dared hope. The Centauri Federation was eager to share technology and resources. The Andromedan Council offered mutual defense agreements. Even some of the smaller species that had suffered under Zephyrian rule were willing to form partnerships with their human liberators, but the most surprising development came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yolandra, the Zephyrian scientist who had first identified human quantum weapons, requested asylum with the human fleet. When she was brought before Admiral Rivera, her request was simple and shocking. I want to help, the crystal-skinned alien said. Your people showed mercy when they could have chosen vengeance. You could have erased our entire species, but you chose to let us live. I've spent my life studying quantum physics, and I believe I can help you solve your weapon degradation problem. Rivera was skeptical. Why would you want to help the people who destroyed your empire? Dr. Yolandra's form flickered with what Rivera had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of sadness. Because my empire was built on conquest and suffering. Your people are building something different, something better. I want to be part of that future, not a prisoner of the past. 6 months later, Admiral Rivera stood once again on the observation deck of the Devastation, but this time she wasn't alone. Representatives from a dozen species stood with her, watching as the newest addition to the human defense fleet took its maiden voyage. The ship looked different from the quantum dreadnoughts that had won the war. Smaller, sleeker, built for exploration rather than destruction. The New Horizon, Webb said, reading the ship's name from its hull. I like it. Rivera smiled. Dr. Yolandra suggested the name. She said it represents what we're all trying to build together. The quantum. Weapons were failing, just as predicted. But humanity had used their 6 months well. They had built alliances, established trade networks, and proven that their value to the galaxy went far beyond their ability to erase enemies from existence. As news of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy, a new phrase had entered the common language of dozens of species. Brace yourself, the humans are coming. But the meaning had evolved. It was no longer a warning of destruction. It was a promise of hope.